What better place to learn about mountaineering and mountain warfare skills than in Switzerland? Let's go.
Switzerland. Around two-thirds of the country consists of mountainous or often inaccessible terrain. Considerable differences in altitude, narrow valleys, and steep mountainsides. In order to navigate this landscape successfully while on a military exercise or operation, mountain specialists are needed.
You can acclimate to the desert, to the jungle pretty easily. You start dealing with this type of altitude, not to mention the different topography challenges you've got, whether it be a sheer rock face, climbing up a mountain, dealing with glaciers. This is something that requires a unique skill set that a lot of people don't have. You can train in Bridgeport for the Marine Corps cold weather training, but this type of thing is invaluable to anybody who potentially could be fighting in this environment.
Andermatt. Here in the heart of the Alps, the Centre of Excellence for the Armed Forces Mountain Service has been training mountain specialists for over 50 years.
We carry out 4 different types of training. The first and most important type is training new blood, the mountain specialist recruits and NCOs. The second type is the training developed for other branches of the Swiss Armed Forces. The third are the international mountain training courses with participants from foreign armed forces.
Now, if any of you guys participated in this training with the Swiss, they would be from the U.S. or elsewhere, I would think these guys would be uniquely positioned to teach it. Growing up in an area where 75% of the country is mountainous, they naturally have a better skill set than somebody who just went to mountain warfare training.
The fourth type is training support for other partners in the Swiss security network, such as police forces, the border guard, or other cantonal civilian authorities. The aim is always to ensure that mountain specialists can support other troops or the civilian authorities by carrying out their duties in the areas of combat protection and assistance in difficult mountain terrain in a highly competent and safe manner.
When's the last time we fought in an environment like this? Afghanistan, we have mountains similar to this. How many guys had significant mountain training? I don't know that a lot, as many of us should have. We've been focused so much. In the past, it was focused on jungle warfare. It was a woodland type environment. Now the desert, but how much has been spent figuring out the mountain side of warfare?
Thanks to the Centre of Excellence's location, all the forms of terrain needed for training are right on the doorstep. Along with undergoing formal training, practicing combat techniques and using weapons, the recruits are brought up to speed on rope techniques.
This is something, let's say you're trained in it. Say you're a ranger. You're trained in this, or you go to mountain warfare training, Bridgeport in the Marine Corps. Unless you do a lot of this, or you grew up with it, you're not going to be good at it. So it's something that looks like the Swiss are uniquely positioned to be good at. I don't know how much cross-training we've done with them. I've never heard of anyone I know going to this course. Seems like it'd be a great addition to fine-tuning the skills of our guys.
Here they learn the basics for further, more demanding alpine training.
Wow.
For this, the Centre of Excellence employs external mountain guides as well as their own officers to pass on their knowledge to the recruits.
Knowledge looks like it's going to be a key component of your confidence in this. So if you've never done it before, it's naturally unsettling to be going down this face of a mountain. People are scared of heights just by the sheer fact they don't want to die. And if you do limited training, these guys that have experience that are going to bring a lot to the table. That's for damn sure. We have the Special Frontier Force in India, and they focus on these high altitude environments. trying to think of another group of people uniquely positioned to be good at this, where most of the country's mountains. You guys let me know in the comments what you think about that, and who would be uniquely positioned to be the best warriors in the mountains.
The goal is to fill the prospective mountain specialist backpack with a variety of skills, as it were, so that he can later deal with many different challenges in the mountains.
In the mountains, the weather can change very quickly.
You hear about even the best mountaineers that go up to, say, a summit, and they just don't do it all the time, and they get lost and never come back. Like she was saying, the weather can change very quickly. It's harsh environment. You're not going to tough it out. So the more of this training, the better. And hopefully you guys can comment that you've actually been to this training, have exposure to it.
The mountain specialist must be able to deal with these kinds of situations. Personal risk management teaches him to recognize dangers early on and to act according to the situation at hand.
Go crawl in the hole and hide out, it looks like, when you get a big blizzard coming. I'm not sure what else they're going to do. Die of exposure or die of an avalanche. It looks miserable.
In order to cope with demanding situations, good equipment is also needed. To ensure they have this, new equipment is constantly being evaluated and tested.
It is very important to be able to train mountain specialists with current or new material. This simplifies techniques and increases safety. To test, for example, whether an airbag works out here on maneuvers, we get our soldiers to try it out.
New equipment in this area is one place that we don't waste money. Lighter equipment. If you look back, when I was in the Marine Corps, sleeping bags were big. Any kind of cover was like a shelter hat, was made of canvas. Cold weather clothing was heavy and bulky. That's where the technology can come a long way to keep the bulk down, maneuverability, weight.
Sehr gut. Jetzt können wir gerade eine scharfe Auslösung machen. Also, jetzt haben wir gesehen, die Auslösung hat funktioniert beim Einzelfahrer. Habt ihr Fragen?
In the final phase of the recruit school, the prospective mountain specialists must pass an exam by demonstrating their newly acquired skills, such as theoretical knowledge, technical know-how, and group leadership.
Take somebody like me who grew up in Florida, did have a bunch of experience in the mountains. Take a long time to understand how to stay warm, how not to get sweaty so that you get cold, how to deal with this environment. I just hearken back to, say, the Frozen Chosen, right, in Korea, where the military just wasn't prepared for those kind of temperatures, the U.S. military. Guys were freezing to death. There was temperatures negative 20 below zero. Every time I see this, I think of that in the Korean War, how ill-prepared we were, whether it be gear, how much training the troops had.
If they pass this final exam, the soldiers are assigned to Mountain Specialist Division 1. They update their skills on annual refresher courses run by conscript officers and the professional personnel at the Centre of Excellence, especially if the operations take place in terrain or conditions that other troops cannot negotiate safely without the help of mountain specialists.
Now, I would say, even if you took this course, if you don't do this on a regular basis, your skills are going to erode quick. My limited exposure in cold weather mountain training, I was so ill-prepared for it, not growing up in the environment, especially even noticing how weather changes in those environments. It's a skill that can be uniquely owned by, say, the Swiss in this example, because of just growing up in the environment.
The mountain specialists are also employed as teachers in special courses for other branches of the Swiss Armed Forces.
We're from the Career NCO School and are currently on a 2-week summer mountain course learning how to move around safely in the field.
Look at that. Did you guys see that slingshot type of thing? I guess they're trying to get the rope from one side to the other. I'm assuming there's a bunch of guys over there. And just looking at the tech, whether it be carabiners, like I said before, it'd be the clothing and the gear, improves so much with time. They can make this easier, if we could say that, versus the old puffy coats and heavy canvas materials just don't keep you warm and are heavy.
It is important to have a good relationship with the participants. After 2 weeks of working together, I know what their strengths and weaknesses are, so I can offer them individual support.
When the mountain specialists are around, you always feel safe. They know what they're doing and are masters of their craft.
The mountain specialists on deployment are not just refresher course soldiers. The Mountain Service Centre of Excellence also has a single-term conscript unit.
Now, if you never spent any time in that environment, you'd think it looks like fun. Like, hey, I'm going to learn how to ski, cross-country ski, get some exercise in. But I can tell you from my limited experience, learning how to manage that in a day like this where it's sunny and beautiful is one thing. Another thing, when there's a blizzard that comes through, it's -20, next thing you know, it's 30 degrees and you start sweating because you're moving around, not managing your body temperature, and create lots of problems for people that aren't used to it, like me.
The single-term conscript unit is on standby to assist the armed forces or civilian authorities on help and rescue operations, to find people who are missing, or to assist people who are stuck or have had an accident in difficult mountain terrain. Excellent 365 days a year, around the clock.
Now, I sit here and look at that view and I said, I want to do the course. I want to be involved in this, right? But knowing just the limited taste I've had with it, I realize how harsh the environment can be. Compare that to, say, the desert or the jungle. It's hot all the time, right? There's not a big variance in the environment. Does it suck being humid in the jungle, doing training, and your feet are starting to rot off? Sure. But this can swing so much where you can go from not having a care in the world to dying.
The Centre of Excellence in Andermatt is also a popular destination for military specialists and delegations from abroad. They benefit not just from the geographical location, but above all, from the profound knowledge of the mountain specialists.
Yeah, that's the key, the profound knowledge. If all they do is mountain training, these guys have to be some of the best people in the world at it. Looks like they've got all the equipment, technology, and they grow up there. Can't replace that. Can't stress that enough. You grow up in an environment like this, you've got unique skills that just aren't commonplace for people who didn't.
We teach mountaineering as well, but the mountains in Vermont where we come from are much smaller, and we have much smaller pockets of alpine terrain. So much of the focus is just on the steeper technical climbing. And so here you have so much terrain that requires different techniques to move through efficiently and safely. And so the Swiss instructors and guides have done a great job introducing those to us and teaching us.
Now, there's a U.S. Army soldier who's coming over. I don't know how much of this we're doing. I've never spoke to anybody who was in Switzerland who did this. Seems like it'd be a training that you just couldn't replace with any other country, any other allies training program.
We often get participants who themselves are instructors at a very high level in their own countries. It's great to broaden one's horizons in this way. Every instructor can learn from his pupils.
What do you think the harshest environment to train would be or to fight would be? Desert, jungle, water, mountains?